everyone, Charlie here with the Girl Scouts of New Mexico Trails. I am the Program Manager Outdoors and the Camp Director for our 2 resident Girl Scout camps, Rancho del Chaparral and Camp Elliott Barker. And today we're going to talk about knife safety, and we're going to make a paper knife. If you are a Girl Scouts of New Mexico Trails camp member, then you can email customer care at nmgirlscouts.org to get the full patch program lesson plan as well as the paper knife template that we are going to be using today. It comes with instructions, and then the template sets out 2 different lesson plans that you can use to teach knife skills to your daisies and up. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to make our paper knife. This is what the finished product is going to look like. So you can see it has a blade, and it's got a back and a front, and it's got 2 brads in it, and my brads had some long legs, so I cut them off on the back, but today we're going to be using some short leg brads, little ones. And I went ahead and, just to save some time, I pre-cut my pieces for my new paper knife that we're going to make, and I printed them on cardstock. And so printing them on cardstock just gives them a little bit more heft to them, and mine's a little bit bent because I used too much marker. But you can color it in whatever color you would like. You're going to have 3 pieces per knife, so per girl, and you can have them put their names on the inside, or you can have them put it on the blade wherever you want, or on the outside, and they can decorate it however they want. Because this is cardstock, it's not easy to push the brad through the paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pair of scissors, and as you can see I already did, here is a test one, and I'm going to poke a starting hole in my paper to put my brad through. And so you can do this for your girls. If you have one of those small hole punches, you can use those as well. And if you have older girls, you can have them cut their own holes, or of course if you're not using cardstock, you can have them just push the brad through itself. It is easier to do it 1 piece of paper at a time than it is to do it both together. But when you're done, you should have a hole in every single hole that there is, and so that's actually 5, because there's 1 in the blade portion as well. So you can see there's the one for my blade, a little hole in there, and then 1 on each end of these guys. So you want to make sure that you're not doing it upside down, which is sometimes difficult for me, but you're going to layer them in this way. So it's going to go 1 side, so 1 outside, and then your knife portion. And I like to go ahead and put my brad in now to hold these 2 together. Just like that. And if it doesn't line up exactly, that's fine too. And then making sure we're not going upside down, put the back side on. And then you just kind of fold the legs of your brad down like you would tighten it on a piece of paper, just like that. And so that's one side, and then I'm going to go through and do it on the other side. And then just when you're doing it on the open side, just make sure that you're not getting the tip of your knife in, because that's what will allow it to come in and out. You do want to put the brads in facing the same way. There we go. And then there's my knife. I'm going to go ahead and test it to make sure that it works. I might need to loosen this side just a little bit so that the knife can come in and out easily. And to help your girls with the safety, because obviously if this was a real knife, you don't want to put your thumb on the blade, which we'll go over more in a second. But you can glue this side closed. So the side that you don't want your knife going in and out of, you can glue it closed. For time's sake, I'm actually going to go ahead and tape this one, just so we don't have to wait for the glue to dry. And just like that, throw a little piece of tape on it. And that just helps with taking the knife in and out when you're practicing with it, so it's not going to go all the way through. Okay, so now that you have your paper knife, and you can do this with your girls, or the girls can do this while they're watching if you have a paper knife, you're going to want to practice a couple of things. You're going to want to practice opening and closing it safely, handing it off, and making sure that you have a safety circle before you even do anything with a real knife. And so the way that you want to open your knife is you always want to open it from the top, which is the not sharp side. So if you look at this paper knife here, you can see it's a little bit stiff. So So we're going to open and close it just a little bit here to make sure that it's nice and smooth. This flat edge is going to be our blade. So this is the sharp end. You can do it the opposite way as well. So as long as you're just consistent with what you're telling your girls, the curved end is the blade or the flat end is the blade. So for this lesson, the flat end is our blade. And so I don't want to put my hands anywhere on this. If you have younger girls, you can also put some red on here. And so that's why they can tell that this is the part that they don't want to touch. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to practice opening and closing. So you always open from the top to the inside. And if it has a safety, you undo the safety. And you always open by grabbing the unsharp side and opening it all the way. You never want to grab your knife all the way like this. And you also don't want to put your fingers over the slot where the knife goes in until it's locked in place. So once it's locked in place, then you can hold it, but you still don't want to put your fingers where the knife lives in his house. You always want to kind of hold on to the edge. So you see I'm holding it, but my fingers are not going over the little house part. Next, after you practice opening and closing, you also want to practice passing. You try to avoid as much as possible passing an open knife, so you always want to close it. Make sure it's closed all the way before passing it to somebody. When somebody is receiving a knife, so if you're receiving the knife, you'll say thank you, and then once the other person lets go, they will say you're welcome. And that's kind of a verbal handoff so that you know that the knife has safely passed from hand to hand. If in any instance you are not able to pass a knife that is closed, you always want to pass it with the blade pointing away from both of you. So remember, in this instance, this is our sharp end. So if I was passing it to y'all, I would make sure that the sharp end is facing away from me, but it's also facing away from you. So the sharp end is pointing out, away from my body, and I'm going to pass it to you like this, and I'll say, here's the knife, and you'll say, thank you, and I'll let go, and I'll say, you're welcome. And then as soon as you can, you would get into your safety circle, which is always your first step before you even handle a knife. So you always want to check your safety circle, which means you're going to, you all can do this with me, put your arms all the way out to the side, in front of you, and over your head. And imagine that you have your paper knife in your hand, or a real knife, and you always want to make sure that if you have a knife in your hand, you cannot touch anyone who is next to you, in front of you, and you're also not going to put it over your head because you don't want to drop it on yourself. But also you want to make sure that you have enough upward mobility if you need to get away from any sort of situation. So those are the three things that we want to cover in this quick knife safety video because they're the basics. So you always want to make sure you have your safety circle, that you are being polite, and that you're making verbal confirmation when you're passing off a knife, that the blade is always pointing away from you, and you're never putting your fingers on the blade or in the blade house. And so if y'all want to learn more, you can join us for one of our outdoor skills session. It's called Knives and Multi-Tools. The next one that's going to be coming up is September 26th. You can find more information on our website at www.nmgirlscouts.org. We hope you can join us, and we look forward to helping you learn more about being safe with knives. Have a great and wonderful day, everyone.